pump that out to the
It's different this year.
make it a destination.
Create a bubble memory and it could just.
Well, we put
blow
on a
over
really
the whole
nice
top of
Christmas
it.
like for my in-laws.
Like a dome.
That'd
We
be
do all
pretty
that
hard to
at
get
our
over
house.
160 acres.
But it's like,
Well, they could have.
kids aren't there. It's, it's not the same.
Right.
You'd be a good board
We've
member.
had, now, and it's weird.
Rankin help.
But there's
I'll take you to lunch.
things that can happen. The
Country.
other reason is probably a good idea to try to do something because we don't have any water to pump it all. It's just the wastewater not to just for a few degrees of temperature. You know what I'm saying? I know that water goes back down to the ground.
Yeah.
It takes a long time for some of those areas to perk on down. Water's deep.
Well, I better
Well, did
start.
they take longer into January then?
Yeah.
Good morning and welcome to the Planning Commission for December 11th, 2013. And let's stand and join me in the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Gong.
Here.
Millies.
Here.
Elliott.
Here.
Diaz.
Here.
Whitlatch.
Here.
Piliano.
Here.
Norman.
Here.
And Commissioner Aguilar is absent today, and he did inform us.
Well, good morning again. At this time, members of the public may comment on any item not appearing on the agenda. Under state laws, matters presented under this item cannot be discussed or acted upon by the Planning Commission at this time. For items appearing on the agenda, the public will be invited to come speak at the time the item comes up for consideration, so that all this is my last day as chairman.
We can tell.
Slow down. So that all interested parties have an opportunity to speak. Any person addressing the commission may be limited at the discretion of the chair. At all times, please give your name and address, and that's where you get to speak unless you're a staff member and you got your assigned locations. So is there anyone who would like to address the Planning Commission on anything that's not on the agenda? Seeing none, I will close the public comment and we'll go right to the approval of the minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes for November 27th?
I'll make the motion to approve the minutes from November 27th, 2013.
Second.
Okay, roll call.
Gong.
Yes.
Millies.
Yes.
Elliott.
Yes.
Diaz.
Yes.
Whitlatch.
Yes.
Piliano. Norman.
Abstain.
We'll go to item 4, parcel map hearings. There will not be a staff presentation at this time, but we'll go to IA, which is tenant parcel map PPM 13-028. And it looks like its site is located north side of Boston Avenue, approximately 0.49 miles west of Road 8, Boston Avenue, Kingsburg. And Ann Chapman is our staff person, so I'll open the public testimony, and it's seen there's no one to testify. I'll close it. I'll go to my fellow planning commissioners for actions to, maybe someone can make a motion to approve this. Categorical exemption.
Make that motion, we approve the PPM 13-028.
Second that motion.
Roll call.
Gong.
Yes.
Millies.
Yes.
Elliott.
Yes.
Diaz.
Yes.
Whitlatch.
Yes.
Piliano.
Yes.
Norman.
Yes.
Go to 5 public hearings. We'll go to A, surface mining permit PMR 11-003. And we'll go to the staff because there's going to be a request for a continued public hearing to January 8th.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. As indicated on the agenda, there is a request to continue the hearing to January 2014. The reason is that we wanted to complete the environmental documentation, so the documentation should be complete for the next PC hearing. And if there's anyone here that would like to speak, I would suggest opening the hearing and then continuing it to January 8th, 2014.
Okay, we'll open the public hearing. Is there anyone here who would like to comment on this item? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing to reopen again after we set the hearing to continue to January 11th, 2013. Someone would like to make that motion, please?
14. Typo.
January 14th?
Typo.
No, typo.
Okay, 14th then, please.
I'll make that motion that we continue to January 8th, 2014. At-
Second?
We have a time specific?
A date specific, 9 a.m. That's fine.
Okay. So moved.
I second that motion.
Could you say what the motion, is it the 8th, January 8th?
No, it's
or-
January
14th.
14th.
Oh, I have,
Mine says the 8th.
Well,
mine
there's a,
says January.
that's an error.
What is the next?
January 8th, 2014.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Somebody said
How did I get
14th.
so confused? Boy, it's a good thing it's my last day.
Thank you. I was
Okay,
getting confused
So
as
to
well.
clarify, we've made a motion to continue this to January 8th. We have a motion
Yes?
by Ed Diaz, and we have a second
second it.
from Nancy Patigliano, and roll call.
Gong,
Yeah, yes, yes.
Neely,
Let me confirm my
Yes.
calendar.
Elliott,
Yes.
Diaz,
Yes.
Whitlatch,
Yes.
Piliano,
Yes.
Norman.
Yes.
Okay, go to 5B. Special use permit, PSP 07-118. Louis M. Padilla?
Padilla.
Padilla? How come you don't decide to use the L's? Don't tell me, I don't need to know.
Too much information.
Yeah, I know. This is a general rule exemption, a special use permit to allow an agricultural establishment for trucking, storage, harvesting, incidental vehicles, maintenance, signage, 3 acres, part of a 3.99 acre site in an A20 zone. Site's located on Road 196, approximately 380 feet north of Avenue 204, north of Plainview, and Dana Metlin is our staff person.
Good morning, Chairman Whitlatch, Commissioners. Just to repeat, I guess, the item is a request to approve a general rule exemption consistent with CEQA and conditionally approve the special use permit for an ag service establishment. This project is the result of a code violation, number V603030 and V608027. The project was closed in 2009 for non-payment of fees and then reopened in 2013 when the unpaid fees and an advance deposit were both paid. Exemption from CEQA is consistent with the state's CEQA guidelines pursuant to Title 14. The project is consistent with this exemption because a notice of exemption and attached discussion indicate the project would not have a significant effect on the environment. Entitlement for this project is found in Section 9.6E.22, which allows agricultural service establishments primarily engaged in performing agricultural-related services to farmers with regard to harvesting, storage, hauling, and equipment repair. And Section 9.6B.15, which allows signs which pertain to a permitted use on the property. Project is located on the east side of Road 196, approximately 380 feet north of Avenue 204, north of Plainview. The project is within the Rural Valley Lands Plan, and the land use designation is Valley Agriculture. A general plan analysis was performed for the proposal, and it was determined that the project is consistent with the General Plan Update 2030. It's located in the AE20 zone and contains a residence, storage shed, C-trains, trucks, trailers, portable toilets, and other equipment associated with the business. The surrounding properties are all zoned AE20 and contain rural residences, agriculture, and fallow land. Aerial view. The applicant is proposing to operate an ag service on approximately 3 acres of the 4-acre site. This is an agricultural service for trucking, harvesting, storage, and incidental vehicle maintenance and repair. This is the site plan. It's looking east from Road 196. Up to 15 employees work at the site during the busy season, which is October to May. Fewer employees work during the slow season. The hours are seasonal as well. October to May is 4 a.m. to 8 p.m., and June through September is 4 a.m. to 3 p.m. The applicant also repairs his vehicles on the subject site, and all of the maintenance occurs on a concrete slab, and waste oil is disposed of at an authorized site.
Do they have any wash facilities there? Or
They
how do
do not.
So they go outside of that, I guess, to wash the vehicles?
Correct. It's a closer view. The applicant does live on the project site here. A condition of approval will require the applicant to prepare a spill prevention control and countermeasure plan and a hazardous materials business plan if applicable. This is a street view from Road 196. And this is looking southwest from the subject site and northwest. The project was noticed according to the law, and I have not received any comments with regard to the project.
Looks like it's been there a long time, it's sort of established.
Well, the initial violation was in 2003, no, 2006. So it's been there for at least 7 years.
I'm a little confused. Just clarify the history on this for me a little bit. They've been there since at least 2006, because there was a violation noticed then. And they weren't permitted at that time?
No,
So they were required to come in to get a permit?
correct.
What happened?
They came in and got a permit in 2008.
Okay.
And the project was processed, and then when we were getting ready to set the public hearing date, I sent out a notice that he still owed some fees, some staff fees for the processing of the project.
Okay.
And at that time was the downturn in the economy, and he never paid. Now, after sending a couple notices, he did eventually pay balance that was due. But at that time, we were asking for additional funds to cover the work that would still be required, and he never paid that. So then, I guess earlier this year, Code Compliance got back onto the violation and notified him, and he said that yes, he was now able to pay the additional, the $2,000 deposit, which is what we required at that time. So he paid that, and we reopened the project and finished the processing, and here we are.
Well, he's basically kind of been cooperating, I guess,
Yes,
huh?
correct.
Just seemed like he was being a pain.
Well, it was a long
hang on for-
time, and he said at that time, when we were asking for the additional money, he couldn't really afford it at that time. And now, the economy has improved, and he's, wanting to come into compliance.
Okay. Thank you for the background.
Looks like he was being a pain, he just didn't have any money. I've been broke,
No, I understand. But
the
that's
county-
why I asked for clarification on it.
It's good that the county cooperated too. We don't put people out of business, but they still have to go by the rules. Okay, keep going, I'm sorry.
That's fine. Yes.
On the health services conditions of approvals, I don't see anything about, it says if he does have a new sewage disposal system, it has to be designed. It doesn't say he's going to. Obviously, he has ladders and trucks, so when they say harvesting, this is not a mechanical harvesting company, this is people, so he has porta potties. What is he doing to clean and do those? Do you know?
Well, he is trucking, the porta potties and all of the other facilities to the fields for the harvesting
And bringing him back.
and bringing them back.
So how is he eliminating the waste? Where is that being done? That's my question. Because he has quite a few, obviously.
Well, I didn't ask him personally, but he does have to follow, state laws with regard to the disposal of the waste.
I read
So-
that, but it doesn't say how he was going to do it. That's why I was asking.
Just so that it's not done here
Well,
on
there's
the
a pump
site.
service, that I would imagine that people hire to have a pump service come out and pump the waste. Okay, any other questions? All right, well, staff's recommendation is to approve the general rule exemption, which is consistent with SEQA, and conditionally approve special use permit number PSP 07-118.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This is a public hearing. At this time, I will invite members of the public to come forward and testify. The applicant's here or his representative, if they'd like to come forward. Which item are you here for?
The AT&T wireless proposal.
Oh, no, have a seat. We haven't got you yet. Boy, that's okay. So anyone else like to come forward to testify for or against this project? Okay, I think it's pretty straightforward, so.
How about one question? You know, on this, the letter from the San Joaquin Air Pollution Control Board, they said the CEQA referral submitted to the district does not provide sufficient information to allow the district to assess the project's potential impact on air quality. Did you address that with them?
And we did address that in the notice of exemption. We did a detailed environmental initial study, which led us to the notice of exemption. And that's included in the staff report.
Any other questions?
I just want to confirm what Dana just mentioned. They do that frequently, and we'll have personal communications with them. I've spoken with them several times, and just a verbal communication has been more than sufficient to clarify what the project is.
And if I could also add, too, with regard to our categorical exemptions, we provide detailed analysis now, and you'll see like a 2 or 3 page analysis going through the impacts. So the letter comes in, then we do the analysis. We'll not get a letter back from them again. So get the letter, we respond to what is being communicated, put it in the record, and we move on. That really shortens the time.
Do we have, I see here we've got instructions and forms for preparing and filing CEQA and expanded categorical exemptions. Is this a new format? I don't recognize this form in here.
It is a new format which we've been following for well over a year.
Ouch. Really, I honestly have not seen these maps, and I do go through the stuff here, but these exhibits and stuff are, yeah.
Some, in fairness, some projects may necessitate more analysis than others in that the environmental impacts are almost self-evident that there's no problem. But ones where we see that there is an issue, and what we're trying to do is streamline and avoid the negative declaration process, what we will do is do a more thorough exemption analysis, design the project in such a way that there are no significant impacts. Therefore, you don't need to do an elaborate MND, prolong the process, increase the cost of the process. So this tries to accomplish a number of objectives, but first and foremost, which we've done many, many times, this expanded categorical exemption is intended to document why there's no significant impact. Whereas the knee-jerk approach in the past was do an MND, do an MND.
Right.
We don't do that now.
Okay, well, that helps streamline it for sure.
Incoming chair, this is just the way the staff keeps you on your toes, so get ready next year because it's going to get worse. Any other, I guess there's no testimony, so I'll close the public testimony, and staff's recommendation is to approve.
The general rule exemption and the special use.
This is one motion, right?
Right.
Do I have a motion from my fellow commissioners? There's no further questions?
I would move for approval of the categorical exemption and special use permit PSP 07-118.
Second, please.
I'll second that motion.
Roll call.
Long,
Yes.
Bailey,
Yes.
Elliott,
Yes.
Gibbs,
Yes.
Whitlack,
Yes.
Juliano, Gorman.
Yes.
Good. Okay, moving right along. The AT&T guys got here just in time, so. Move to 5C, excuse me, not AT&T. Or is it AT&T? We'll find
It is
out.
now.
That's singular.
Singular. Special use permit number PSP 13-055, new Singular Wireless. Carl Jones is the representative. It's a categorical exemption, special use permit to allow a 150-foot tall lattice-type wireless communication facility with 12 antennas, 2 microwaves, 15 remote radio units on a 2,500 square foot portion of an 11.8 acre site. The location is approximately, it's on the north side of Avenue 112, approximately 900 feet east of Road 238, south of Porterville. Dana Metlin, you got the show again.
Thank you. And I believe that Singular Wireless is owned by AT&T.
Your belief is
Boy, I was right again.
Again, this is a categorical exemption and the special use permit for a wireless facility. The exemption is consistent with state SEQA guidelines pursuant to Title 14. This project is compatible with this exemption because one lattice-type tower will be erected on a 2,500 square foot portion of a 12-acre site. Entitlement for this project is found in Section 16.2B, which allows radio, microwave, and television towers in excess of 75 feet in height or within 2 miles of an airport or heliport in the AE10 zone. Project is located on the north side of Avenue 112, approximately 900 feet east of Road 238, which is Main Street, and south of Porterville. The site is within the land use Rural Valley Lands Plan, and designation is Valley Agriculture. The project is within the conical surface Zone C of the Porterville Municipal Airport. According to the Comprehensive Airport Land Use Plan, the project is not within any CALEP safety zone. The proposal is consistent with the General Plan Update 2030 because it will expand the county's communications infrastructure and capacity and improve its wireless technology. The project is located in the AE10 zone and contains a single-family residence, an oil field, and fallow land. The surrounding properties are zoned AE10 and contain an oil field, agriculture, fallow land, and rural residences. Aerial view. And the tower will be located in the southwest corner of the site, right down here. Project is a 150-foot tall wireless facility, lattice tower, with 12-panel antenna, 15 remote radio units, and 2 microwave dishes. And it will be located on a 2,500 square foot portion of the site. This is the second site plan. A 230 square foot prefabricated equipment shelter will be mounted on a concrete foundation. 5 cabinets are proposed to be installed inside the equipment shelter. The facility will operate 24 hours a day, 365, and will be unmanned. Maintenance and inspection visits will occur approximately 2 times per month. Access is from Avenue 112, and informational signage will be located on the site. A 6-foot-high chain-link fence will surround the perimeter of this site, and it may be topped with strands of barbed wire that is yet to be determined. This is a simulation of the project. The top picture is looking north from the south side of the project, and the bottom photo is the view toward the east from the project site.
Dana, we always seem to have a problem with our fence ordinance. Can they put up a 7-foot fence without a special use permit? And is there any restriction on razor wire on top? Is that a problem? What's the total height by the time you put?
Well, the total height is 6 feet by ordinance, but because we're putting the fence with the possible razor wire atop that, which might take it to 9 feet, that is in the special use permit, and therefore they would be allowed to do that.
Good. Okay, continue.
Another aerial view. And
Dana, who lives in the house here right next to it?
the property owners should be identified in the staff report, if I can find it. They are Lester and Jolene Huckabee.
Okay.
And they are the landowners where the site,
They are, correct. And the tower will go in the southwest corner down here.
Any discussion about making it look more aesthetically pleasing than a steel tower?
There has not been any discussion with regard to that.
Because I know, in looking where this is located, those of us that go to Strathmore now and then, we cut off the 65 and go right by there. And it is really kind of a scenic way to get off the highway, and I'm just wondering if,
This one's in Terabella. Terabella.
Yes, this is south of Porterville and it's north of Terabella.
oh, I'm looking at the other one. Okay, you look at that one. Still, I think, we've required that in other places, and I think we ought to discuss it for all of these.
Okay, anything else, Dana? Any more questions? If not, if you're finished.
I have concluded the
Okay,
project
thank
was
you.
noticed according to the law, which I must say. And here is staff's recommendation, approval of the categorical exemption and special use permit.
Thank you, Dana. I'll open the public hearing at this time. Members of the public are invited to come forward, and if the applicant would like to come forward to talk about the project, you can come at this time to the microphone. Please give your name and address for the record. Fuel boxes don't count. No, they do, but this.
Carl Jones, representing AT&T from Folsom, California.
Okay. You want to tell us any of my fellow commissioners have any questions? No?
How about it? Have you guys done anything aesthetically with this?
In this particular, we try and go about providing the most least intrusive means of putting up a site. In this particular area, because of the size and height that is required, because we're trying to fill a significant gap in coverage for the Highway 65 there, we need this height, and 154 feet, it has to be a lattice tower for safety reasons.
No? Okay. So, would you consider doing something to make it look a little different?
If it was a smaller or different site required for this area, again, we couldn't have 154 for anything that's going to be. I presume you're in reference to like putting up a tree or a palm tree or something like that.
Well, it doesn't have to be a real thing, just so it doesn't reflect when someone's watching the sun go down or come up, or, just something to make it not look like a steel tower. You guys in the industry, you do this all over the country, and I see some that are really attractive.
Yeah.
Why can't we have them in Tulare County?
Yeah, for certain areas, for sure. I'm representing quite a few sites for AT&T, and we'll definitely look at that avenue for certain sites, but not for 154 feet, which is what we kind of need for this area to cover this gap on the freeway. We can't build a tree at 154 feet.
I think at this point, just to clarify this, it's presently not a requirement. So I think they've just asked that maybe you make it look like something else. If it's not possible, then that's what you're saying is because of the height that's not possible.
Yeah.
I would like to add to this.
Name and address for the record, please.
Chris Hatch.
Speak into the...
Chris Hatch with AT&T.
Yeah, address?
Folsom, California.
No, address.
124 on Maya Drive, Folsom, California.
Okay, thank you.
If you're asking about the reflection off of the tower, it's currently a matte gray galvanized steel tower, which has a luster less than any of the paint colors that we could possibly paint it. The next option for AT&T is typically the orange and white painting that is done for FAA guidelines, and at this time we don't see that as being a requirement from the federal government. So you're not going to get a shiny metal tower. This is matte gray, non-reflective. It blends into the evening sky rather well. I'm wondering what sort of recommendations you're looking for.
Well, it just seems that, we have all this technology that's, they're popping up everywhere. Can't we make them look better? That's all I'm searching for. We don't have any specific requirements yet in Tulare County, and perhaps that's what we need to get to.
We are striving year after year to come up with more advanced technologies for screening towers, building on top of rooftops and buildings wherever possible, building up stealth trees when we have a site at 90 feet or less. We're not able to do it over that height due to structural reasons. The branches and the wind. The wind tends to wiggle the towers a little too much, and we can't pass the California seismic requirements. At 100 feet and over, it requires that we put up a monopole, and up to 120 feet and over, it requires a lattice tower to meet the requirements of the state of California.
Well, I was in Folsom Sunday morning, and I didn't notice any there. What do you guys do in Folsom with them?
We have 17 towers in Folsom. I have 2 near my house on PG&E towers, as well as a very nice tall 120 feet, at the Folsom prison. There are multiple scattered around. We're currently working a project to put one in the top of the Palladio Mall in Folsom. Wherever we can, we're going to hide the tower away. In this case, there's nothing around. Other than additional lattice towers that are further south on the highway and north on the highway. We're filling a spot right in the middle with the exact same technology and tower.
And Sacramento County has no guidelines on that?
There are plenty of guidelines, but monopoles are preferred. They like a steel monopole painted white to light gray, and that's for monopoles. Where it comes to a lattice tower, the natural color or whatever is required by the FAA is acceptable. And in this case, a light luster galvanized lattice tower.
I think I'm okay with that, and because we don't really have any rules, we could probably talk after we go through this, maybe about directing staff to look at those regulations. But
you have a list of various designs that camouflage a tower?
There are no camouflage techniques for this specific type.
No, but I mean, do you have a book of all the different types you have?
We have 3 different kinds of trees we can use.
You have pictures or drawings or specifications on those?
I can offer them to you if you'd like to give me your email address.
Sure. Give them to staff and they can take a look at them.
just pass them on to Dana. You have Dana's card. You know how to get a hold of Dana?
We do.
Thank you very much.
No problem. And then the other Strathmore site that you referenced first, that is a monopole, again, just because it's more aesthetically fitting with that.
We'll address that when it comes up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving right along. Is there anyone else that'd like to testify on this item? Seeing none, I'll close public testimony and move on to staff's recommendation, which is?
Approval of the categorical exemption and the special use permit.
Okay. And before I call for the vote, does anyone like to say?
Just that at this height, I can see why they require a structure like this. And the lattice design actually is open and allows the air and the wind to move freely through it, rather than having a solid surface there that's going to probably flex that thing quite a bit on high winds. So I understand where they're coming from, and I think I'm comfortable with this technology, assuming it has to be that high.
Would you like to make a motion?
Yes, I'll make the motion then here with my glasses.
Second it.
Wait, hold on. Let me make the motion.
Did make the motion.
Okay, where's my...
Approve a categorical.
Here we would approve
categorical
here we go. I'm reading it. I don't have my glasses on. approve a categorical exemption consistent with CEQA and the state CEQA guidelines. Let's see, pertaining to new construction or conversion of small structures, and conditionally approve special use permit PSP 13-055.
Bill, you had a second on that?
I may change my mind. Yeah, I'll second it.
Got too complicated.
Roll call, please.
Gong,
Yes.
Bailey,
Yes.
Elliot,
No.
Diaz,
Yes.
Vitlac,
Yes.
Juliano,
Yes.
Norman.
Yes.
And now we're going to move to the next one. Okay, we're going to go to item 5D, special use permit PSP 13-052. This is a categorical exemption and use permit for an antenna located on Avenue 196, also known as Fraser Highway, between Road 234 and, that's kind of hard, between Road 234 and Road 236 on Avenue 196. April Hill is our staff person.
Good morning, Chairman Whitlatch and Commissioners. I'm April Hill, Planner 2 from Project Review Committee, from the Project Review Division. New Singular Wireless, doing business as AT&T Mobile, represented by Shore to Shore Wireless and Carol Jones. This project is very similar to the one that Dana is presenting, with the exception that it's a 100-foot monopole that can blend in better, that is structurally allowed by seismic regulations, and probably blends in better closer to a community of Strathmore. The CEQA exemption is for new construction of small facilities, Section 15303. The cell tower lease area is a 1,600 square foot portion of a 14-acre parcel, and it's between the Bryant Kern Canal and Road 236. It's within the Conical Airport Hazard Zone of Eckert Field, about 1 mile northeast of Strathmore. Conical Zone has no particular restrictions, and the cell tower facility is not a large transmission facility or a project that would attract large numbers of people. Property is about 1.5 miles east of Highway 65. The 1,600 square foot lease area is on, as I said before, a 14-acre parcel with 2 assessor parcel numbers. It's going to be located on the west side. The cell tower itself will be on the west side of the northernmost APN. Properties to the north and west are zoned AE20. Properties to the east and south are RA43, which is rural residential, 5-acre lots minimum. Radio towers are allowed in all zones. Towers over 75 feet require an approved use permit. The project complies with the AE20 zone yard areas with conditions of approval. It's within the Ag Preserve, but the county's urban uniform rules allow a community utility facility with an approved use permit. Here's an aerial taken in about 2007. The site contains a storage area and buildings for the property owner's farming equipment and currently fallow ag land. Surroundings include rural residences, orchards, and vineyards, the canal, and a county stormwater drainage basin. Triangle up at the northwest. Site's outside Strathmore's urban development boundary and is subject to the Rural Valley Lands Plan. The property owner proposes leasing the area and planting the remainder of the 14-acre parcel with an orchard or vineyard sometime in the near future. So the project will not conflict with commercial ag in the area, and the property owner is required to sign a right to farm notice. Here's the site plan with the overview of the parcel. The tower itself will be about 125 feet from the canal. It's a 100-foot tall tower. It'll be reached by an existing 520-foot long private dirt road from Avenue 196, and they are planning to surface that easement with granite, with gravel. No conditions of approval were recommended by County Public Works.
Question, April. As close as that is to the canal, and I know the canal is cemented, but there's always seepage and leakage on those things. Has anybody looked into the weight on this thing on that location? Because they're 120 feet, you know, because that water will kind of go
Sometimes go up.
this way. And I'm just curious to see if that was looked at.
Well, related to that, it's in a flood zone, flood hazard zone X, 0.2% chance of flood, and they're requiring that the equipment area be raised.
Right.
And
I'm
they'll
not worried
have to-
about the flood so much. I'm worried about
If it
actual subsidence, basically, of the area because of the plume of water that could be coming out of that canal, assuming there's going to be some leakage, and there always is some.
I think
Well,
that,
when we open, I think when the chairman
Open
opens
public
up the
hearing,
thing, then we'll discuss that. We'll just let it ride for now.
Yes.
Thank you.
I have confidence in the engineering, but thank you for the question. Here's more details showing the existing walls and fences now on the property. There's, you'll see in site photos that there's that the owner has built a concrete block wall, has existing barbed wire fences down below to separate the canal property from his property, and also the stormwater drainage basin.
Show us residences on that, back on that site map.
The nearest residence is about 400 feet south. Okay, around here in this area.
Okay, then go east. Yeah, are those residences all along there?
Over here, yes. But the site of the cell tower is here. So I have some photo simulations of it also provided by the agent.
Thank you.
Thank you for your questions. Thank you, Chairman. Fences, the road, utility easement. It's noted orchards. Here's details of the lease area, the 100-foot monopole, the equipment shelter, propane tanks, and the backup generator. They'll have a 6-foot high chain link fence topped with barbed wire to surround the lease area and protect the equipment. The lease area, the lease agreement between AT&T and the property owner does not preclude co-location of other wireless telecommunication facilities. Any additional cell towers over 75 feet would require an approved use permit. The the facility will operate in full compliance with the regulations of the Federal Aviation Administration, which governs painting or the camouflage or keeping it not camouflaged for crop dusters. Also in compliance with the Federal Communications Commission, American National Standards Institute, and in this case, Federal Emergency Management. See questions coming up. As I mentioned before, the equipment building itself will be elevated 1 foot above natural ground, adjacent natural ground. Here are some site photos from Avenue 196. Crossing the canal, the cell tower's over here. Once again, the cell tower would be about 500 feet back from the road. Here's the photos of the owner's farm equipment storage on the site. Here's one photo simulation. Notice the power poles and how the proposed monopole would not be dissimilar in appearance and should not affect, should not affect the aesthetics. Here's the view to the north, showing farm buildings in the area. The California Natural Diversity Database shows that the northeast corner of the parcel has striped Adobe lily habitat. The tower itself is outside that area. Total footprint is less than CEQA would require for an initial study or a negative declaration. That's why the categorical exemption for a small structure. Subject site has been intensely farmed, and the surrounding properties contain both ag and residential uses. No wetlands on the site. No consultation response received from the Bryant Water Authority to this use permit, but at the project review committee stage, the Director of Operations and Maintenance for the Bryant Water Authority stated that as long as AT&T's proposal was in compliance with property zoning setbacks, they would be satisfied. Public notice was mailed to surrounding property owners and published in the Times Delta with a 10-day public comment period. No comments were received up to this time. And this ends staff's report. Do you have any questions for staff?
Questions? If not, I'll open the public testimony. Invite the applicant to come forward, please. Give your name and address for the record. We're recording this, so if you want a copy, we'll send you a copy. Actually, it's online, so.
Carl Jones, Folsom, California, 1005 Pintail Circle with AT&T.
Chris Hatch, 124 Amaya Drive, Folsom, California, with AT&T as well. Would you like to state your question again?
Yes. Due to the proximity to the canal and knowing there's always some seepage in those canals, I'm wondering if you've looked into the possibility of the height of that thing or the weight of that thing maybe causing some settling or subsidence that would cause some tipping and some issues down the road.
We worked with the Fremont Canal Engineering group with the county, or I'm not sure where he was with.
It's called Friant.
Friant.
We'll educate you.
Brian, thank you very much, Bill.
Thank you.
We worked with the engineers to determine what issues they would have with us building within close proximity, 100, 200 feet, of the canal walls. They brought up the floodplain, that we should elevate the structure 1 foot above, and also brought up the fact that we need to run a geotech for the property. We have done so and have found no mitigating factors for water seepage at the area we're working. We're actually building on a bit of a rise, and in the area that we will be impacting with the foundation that we'll be planting for the tower, we have absolutely no issues with underground water. We did not discover anything where we'll be working.
Okay, that's the way it is now, but these things tend to settle and leak in the future. You're confident that you're going to have enough built-in redundance on this thing here that
they've run the geotech for that location close to the canal and per the requirements for being that near to a canal, and have no issues. In fact, they were able to offer us some data that they did on recent testing for the canal, and it's actually in really good shape in that area because of the proximity to the town of Strathmore.
I live down that road towards Springville, and that canal right at that point flooded within the last 6 to 8 months. They had to close the road for about 2 weeks. There was some leakage, I guess, out of the canal. You might want to ask someone about that.
Will do.
And then there also tends to be a collection area when there's heavy rains, which thankfully we'll get. And it tends to flood along there. That's a little manufacturing operation right there on the corner where they make farm equipment. Right, I think you're going to be, to the southeast of that?
Correct.
Corner. So you might want to just check on that, because I go through there every day, and so I see it, 365 days a year, and it has flooded. They may have corrected the problem, but right along that bank of the canal, it tends to be a little bit boggy. I was going to bring it up since it's my turn next, but I've probably driven down that road for over 40 years, and in the wet years, that parcel is always underwater. So
Good to know.
we don't have that many wet years, but when we do.
We do,
But I think the canal leaked in this case, the case I'm referring to.
Yeah, and the nice thing is, too, the engineer that we've been working with, personally working with from Freon, they have technology that they're hoping to put on the tower in the future. So I'm kind of well connected with him at the moment, so I will definitely follow up with him.
So did you say we, at 100 feet, I know 150 foot, that's a certain situation. 100 feet, can we have a tree or not on those?
No, a tree at 100 feet in an open area like this, where we don't have any blocking for the high winds that can come through the valley, it requires a slimline monopole, which is what we're offering here, which is the smallest tower we can to get to 100 feet and also support future co-location loads for other carriers.
You guys need to come up with a slimline tree.
Yeah, the disadvantage with that, like Chris says, it's not that
What about a
co-locatable
big
for future
daffodil, John?
wireless
Orange
carriers.
tree.
Whereas a monopole is, you can put two other carriers on the pole. Trees are specifically for one carrier, so then you know.
And this is identical to a tower that's currently on the west side of Strathmore when you're driving out of town.
But one more piece of wisdom, I'm a general engineering contractor, and so I'm kind of familiar with this ground, but also you need to do some soil borings.
We've already performed
Done that,
3.
okay, because there's sometimes a layer of muck underneath the hard pan. Smells real bad, plus it's not very supportive, but, okay. Thank you. Anyone else like to come forward and testify at this time? Unless you guys got any more to say, we'll move right along, okay?
Thank you.
Anyone else like to testify? If not, I'll close the public hearing and move along to staff's recommendation, which is approve.
Staff recommends that you approve the categorical exemption and conditionally approve special use permit PSP 052.
I just want to make a short little statement that we're at a time in Tulare County, one of the most valuable things we have here is our open space. One of the most valuable opportunities we have is to have our partners like AT&T Wireless to help us protect that open space. And they certainly have the money to do this, and we need to think about this down the road, and we'll direct staff after this particular case. But we need to get away. You guys are developing incredible technology and making billions of dollars. We've got to come up with a way that these are more aesthetically pleasing and safe at the same time.
Thank you, John. Do we have a motion to approve this project? Something like that?
I'll make the motion to approve categorical exemption and to conditionally approve special use permit, PSP 13-052. Mel, is that a little easier for you?
You have a second? Okay, roll call?
Song,
Yes.
Bailey,
Yes.
Elliott,
No.
Diaz,
Yes.
Village,
Yes.
Miliano, Norman.
Yes.
I would just like to comment that we have been approving quite a few towers in Tulare County, so I'm thinking that our service should just be outstanding now.
Better live down next to them because it isn't where I am.
Well, AT&T does a great job because I work in that Springville area, and that's the only one you can get reception on. So you're doing your job, and thank you for supporting our county. Now, did you guys pay your permit fees? I just want to make sure that. Thanks for coming. Moving right along, we'll go to got a couple of nice reports coming up. We need to adopt our calendar. I'm sure everyone read this. And maybe February 12th, the reason we have a red circle is because that's maybe the farm show. And are we talking about maybe just canceling that meeting?
Yes.
Well, what about, can't we move that one? Because we're short on, that one after, let me look at that calendar.
Well,
I
we
mean, we
don't,
wouldn't have, oh, I see, we have a 25th one at least.
yeah, we got one in February, so that ought to work.
I think we brought this up but now it is
thank you.
canceled, right? Which is great.
Well, I think we have to.
We gotta
decide
vote
that.
on it, but-
We have to vote on that. have
We
to
don't
vote
need
to
a
approve
5
this.
and 19 one on that month, or?
No, we don't need it.
Because we could easily do that, too, since we have the extra week in January.
I'll be up to the new chairperson. If there's a need, I can come on the 5th, but if there isn't really a need, there's no use coming.
If I may respond briefly, if there is the press of work, we could always discuss with you setting a special meeting. We could do that. But right now, let's go with what we have.
So is everyone okay with it? We only have one meeting in November. This year we had two. In November, one before Thanksgiving. I have a motion to accept the calendar as presented here.
I would move for approval of the calendar.
We have a second?
Second.
Roll call?
Vaughn,
Yes.
Elise,
Yes.
Elliot,
Yes.
Yes,
Yes. Yes.
Liliana,
Yes.
Norman.
Yes. Carried. We'll move to 6B. Mike Washam's Economic Development is going to give us agricultural value chain in Tulare County. Hi, Mike.
Good morning, Chairman and fellow commissioners. Before I start this, I'd just like to make one little announcement. Back in July, we broke ground on the White River Plaza in Early Mart, 7-acre commercial retail center. And tomorrow morning, there's a grand opening for the AutoZone. They've already constructed that, and next month we'll be opening the Dollar General on that site as well. So there's an open invitation to any who choose to attend. It's 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. All right, with that, as you can see, I'm not Antonio Avalos, and I don't have a PhD in economics. So I'm filling in for him today. I'm going to do my best. I'm not as articulate as he is or as animated, but what we've done is partnered with Fresno State and to create a value chain study for our county, the agricultural value chain, and use it for our economic development purposes to create a marketing strategy to go forward to those types of industry sectors that look like there's potential for growth. So I'll just briefly go over this. Your agenda packet should have the full report in it. As you can see, that over the last 20 years, our production in Tulare County has just steadily gone up and up and up. This year, we're at, I think it was a little over $6 billion in crop production this past year. The top 15 commodities produced in California, milk is number one, and we share about 27% of the state total. It's a real important aspect of our value chain locally. It supports 5,800 jobs and 86 million annually. One of the factors that was determined in here is that for every $1 million of production in dairy production, another 280,000 is multiplied in. The multiplier effect is 280,000 additional dollars is circulated into the local economy.
Are you talking about that, like we have ice cream production here, we've got cheese, sour cream, all those other, that's the other production?
That's that's where the spend
local.
Goes into, exactly.
That stays locally, correct?
Yes. And that's what we're looking to do, to capture more of that local value, added value. For agricultural purposes, it's more than farming and ranching. There's backward links to the support for agriculture, meaning fertilizers, irrigation companies, that type of things. Then there's the production itself, and then there's processing and packaging, and ultimately distribution. So what we're looking for is to capture as much of that chain as possible.
I'll stop you once again. I'm a little slow. Wayne and I are always trying to convince people to come here. So when we quote $6 billion, that's just
that's
what
production.
We produce.
That's just
that
production.
doesn't include the ice cream, the milk, the cheese, and all that.
Right, absolutely.
And can you quantify that? with the
We
other-
do as we go forward.
Okay, thank you.
Here's exactly what you're talking about. The first column in this top chart is the $6 billion of production. That creates indirect of $361 million in support, another $500 million in production, another $215 million in packaging and processing, and another $40 million in distribution. So therefore, your production value is a little over $6 billion. Ultimately, you get over $8 billion of worth because of the effect of that multiplier. But what we want to do is expand that further. And you can see here down at the bottom the employment by direct employment, and then the indirect and induced employment numbers get up to 38,000 are employed via the agricultural value chain.
Do those positions in those plants that produce cheese and ice cream, whatever, do they pay more than agricultural jobs, the salaries?
They are a higher wage than labor
level too?
in field, yes. There's actually, I think he has a chart here. If not, I'll be able to show you some others. What's interesting that what came out of this is that in Tulare County, agriculture is $6 billion. We're the second or third largest this year. We're fluctuate between second and third between Kern and Tulare. Fresno has been number one for a number of years, barely. But for our county, agriculture is twice as important to our local economy than it is in Fresno and Kern County. What you see here is, let's say in Fresno at the top of the final column, agricultural production is 9% of their local GDP for the county, whereas in Tulare County, it's almost 20% of our GDP. So it's twice as valuable. That shows us the importance of agriculture in the county. It also shows us that there's opportunities for diversification as well. So it points out two factors there. This study, we're focusing on the agriculture and growing that.
I think Fresno has, we saw this, a larger, more acreage in farming than Tulare County. I don't know if that's true or not.
I don't know the
Yeah, I would say that's true.
That's
Being an
true.
ag broker.
That could be why they're a little bit ahead of us, so.
And we're certainly way ahead on the dairy aspect, that sector of it. What this is showing a coefficient. It's a little difficult to read, and the production is a little bit different because what you might look at this as and be more familiar with is in retail. You're looking at a coefficient, if your dollars are going outside the county for a particular type of item, say autos are always an example. Auto dealership per capita spending is a particular dollar amount, statewide average. Are you having to go out of the county to buy vehicles? And if you are, then there might be a potential to bring an auto dealership to the county. That's just one example. Well, here is in the ag value chain, you're looking at, you've got all the production, and there's demand for processing and distribution and all of that, packaging. How much is that leaking out to other counties or other regions, and how much can we bring back in here? And what this shows, and this table doesn't do it justice, so in the report on page 15, I'll just mention that the coefficient is for processing, and I'm looking at the regional level. Coefficient for processing is 42%, and so what that shows is there's a lot of the processing going out of our area that we could really focus on to bring in. So that's a key factor there. And again, you're usually familiar with this type of analysis in retail because you're looking at coefficient usually as 1, and you're looking at getting whether you're leaking or not. This is a little different because it's a very specified industry structure, so the numbers are a little bit lower as far as percentage.
Do you know yet why it goes out of the county?
Well, for a number of reasons. I mean, the capacity isn't necessarily in the county, and that's what we want to grow. Those types of industries, those types of companies that do the processing, the food packaging, that we can draw to our county to have that facility locate.
So do we not have the infrastructure, or is
Well,
there
we
another?
shut down the railroad, Wayne, on on
Do
the
we have
east side of the
infrastructure-
valley.
Do we have the infrastructure to do the processing and packaging today?
Do not.
There's sites that are available in the unincorporated area as well as the cities that can accommodate this, and this is what we're using this as a tool to go after those particular sectors that we see that there is a demand for that, and to try to attract those types of companies to the county, as well as expanding. One thing, we have a number of industries, large companies, craft, and those types of international paper, and by helping our existing companies expand, they have other opportunities for business expansion, and by being a good business-friendly area, when they're looking to expand, they might be looking across the whole United States, and we might be, by our example, might be able to help sell them on our area as well, plus this scientific backup of where the commodities are produced. Because there's a lot, time is money, traveling distance and transportation is a huge factor as well. So,
And that was exactly the argument that was played out for the county getting behind the project to acquire and reoperate the railroad on the east side of Tulare County. And what happens when you put that rail into service is that these packaging and processing places all spring up along the rail line. But yet, a lot of people said, don't spend the money, it's a waste of money. But this is what we lost right there from not doing that. We should be jumping on that, but we can't have the vision and the foresight to do it. I'm sure Ben could tell us all about the benefits. But, we got to get behind this. We want to invest into our economic development. That's why we do it.
Well, that's why I asked the question about infrastructure, because certain industries like walnuts, fruits, they do ship that out of our county. Like Diamond Walnuts goes to Stockton because they package up, little containers we buy in the stores with cranberries and nuts. We don't do that here. We ship it out of our county and put it in Sacramento. So I'm just asking, is that the kind of thing we could?
That's the type of thing, yeah, exactly.
This way.
To follow up a little on what John was saying, I've seen these value chains done. In particular, I saw one that came out of Wisconsin, had to do with dairy. Now, they're not as diversified in agriculture as we are here. However, their multiplier on their dairy industry was 6 to 7, because they were processing that milk and that cheese in Wisconsin, and it wasn't leaving the area. And so that wasn't by county, of course, that was by the state. But
just as a question, because that's a very extremely high multiplier, many would say if Dr. Avalos was here, he would say it's unrealistically high. It could, if the author of that study, whether it was the Wisconsin Dairy Board or something, it could have elevated numbers for their particular purpose. This study is a real world basic,
but keep in mind,
conservative numbers.
Dairy's real big in Wisconsin. They don't grow a lot of stuff other than dairies, and they process it locally, which means that most of the people, they hire the people locally, and so they do have a higher multiplier. Now, their numbers aren't high. They don't make nearly as much milk as we do, and so maybe that has something to do with it.
We actually export milk products to Wisconsin for their cheese.
Right. So that, I guess what I'm saying is, because of the percentages, those numbers might not be apples to apples on a deal like that. But it is so very important to Wisconsin, the dairy industry. That's how important the dairy industry basically is to Wisconsin.
Well, Tillamook is a good example, too. In Oregon, they get a lot of their products from all over, but that company is driving Winco to sell, Tillamook products in Tulare County, and it's a very good product, and people buy it. We should be kind of turning that around and driving production here to sell our own products. I would think we could do that.
Absolutely, and in the economic development game, so to speak, business attraction is the big win. It's the great price, but expansion of existing businesses are where you get your biggest bang for the buck. Seton Pistachios, Seton Farms down in Terabella is just going gangbusters. They've got large expansions. They've submitted some business building permits for some additional expansions. They employ 800 people. I mean, these are growing, and they bought it about 13 years ago, I guess, and from Dole, and it was a struggling company, not able to make money, and they've just grown this. We were at a community meeting Monday night, that they're giving back to the community. They're sponsoring an open recreation and playground area for the community, and that's just a perfect example of a partnership, private partnership with working with, and unfortunately, the land that they're putting that is used to be rail line down south of Terabella. They bought it from the UP as they were selling off these parcels, and they've converting it to an open recreation field for the community. So, just going further on here, the estimated occupations for agriculture in the coming about 5 more years now. Overall, as a fraction, as a percentage of the overall economy for the San Joaquin Valley, right now, or in 2008, it was about almost 27.5%. It's going to be a slight decrease overall. Yet in Tulare County, you're going to look at it pretty flat. It's going to be about the same percentages of overall. It's growing as well, and it will still be the same percentage. It's growing just under 5% in the next 5 years, estimated.
Mike, what's the next percentage of occupations in the county if it's not agriculture? I thought it would be higher than this.
I think it's government and healthcare. I can't remember which order those two are, but it's in that.
Wow.
Here's employment projections for Tulare County through, well, this might show it here. I don't see it. It's not broken down by government workers or not. But you're looking at an overall growth of from 165,000 in 2008 total employment, of which 57,000 were from based in agriculture, to 176,000, and 60,000 of that would be in agriculture as well. But when you're asking about the per hour wage, if you look over here, the median hourly wage for total occupations, the median wage is $13.27 an hour, but for agricultural, it averages almost $16 an hour. So these are higher paying jobs than some of these retail, service type of industries. This one's very difficult to tell, but it's a very key, and in your report it will show. It kind of combines a number of factors. It takes out it segments the industry, the ag industry, into different areas, such as poultry, egg, crop farming, fruits and nuts, and it breaks it down and it shows projected in employment growth and and classifies it into different sectors, whether it's a base industry, an emerging industry, or a growth industry, and this is what we're going to really fine tune and focus in as this matrix displays. I know it's hard to read on such an overhead, but so expanding industry is those sectors that belong in the production cluster, and it shows the competitive advantages of Tulare County in agriculture. An emerging one is general purpose machinery and manufacturing. Truck transportations are some of the sectors that show potential for growth. And he identified a couple declining sectors. One of them was other food manufacturing. And what that is really, when you look at the classification, the 3119, it's like condiments, that type of spices and condiments and things like that. I guess there's a decline. I don't know specifically what it was, but they're showing a decline in that, as well as machinery, agricultural construction machinery, and warehouse storage. So those are the findings. If you have any further questions, I'm open, further discussion, whatever the...
Comment.
Thanks.
These dates are 2011, and I noticed like the fruit and tree nut farming is on a decline on this. I would suspect...
It's turned.
Amazing.
It has turned dramatically the last year and a half.
Huge amounts of trees going in, yeah. So it's...
Well, it's when you do these studies, it's a challenge, because it's a snapshot in time, and to try to use the models that the professor used, needed to use the same years as the crop report, and the in-plan documentation comes out later. So just to try to get it, so you're looking at a snapshot in time, and obviously it's already moved on from where it is, but it gives you some guidance, some clear objectives to go out after.
Are there any trends like, we're looking down the road 20, 30 years, and we know, it seems like we have a lot of eggs in this dairy basket, where, like Fresno County, if you look at theirs, theirs is more in the processing of other kinds of livestock. What comes after dairy? Are any of these PhDs telling us that? Because obviously the dairy production, the consumption of it by the consumers is going to fall off in the next 30 years.
Well, I tell you, maybe locally or nationally, United States-wise, China has a huge interest in our dairy products. And that's an expanding, just a few months ago, we hosted a lunch from China's merchants, which is they control most of the ports in China and a lot of the distribution with CDI. And they're looking for baby formula because the baby formula products in China have been tainted with, and all of that terrible experience. What China, and it's a huge growing demand, consumer demand, they're looking for Western products, especially American products, that are packaged here. And this is what we learned in that meeting, which was really eye-opening, because CDI thought, oh, we're going to give you a bunch of raw product and do that. That's not what they want. They want it processed and packaged and made here, so when it goes over to their market, it's a U.S. product, and then there's a premium involved in that. And that's what they're looking for. So that's going to be maybe, there's a declining trend in the United States, but the overall market is still expanding greatly.
That's exactly what they were saying at the Ag Show, too, the Chinese delegation that was here.
Well, John, and plus they are right now in their Congress deciding whether to release the ban on for one child. And if that happens,
whoa,
the population is going to explode, and then they're going to even need more. We just came back from a seminar that they were telling us that's very probably going to happen.
That's a two-edged sword right
Yes,
there.
it is. Yes, it is.
So-
Yes, it is.
Wow.
Good for the economy, though.
Are you're going to know who to go after in terms of targeting processing and packaging companies?
We're going to have we're following up with Dr. Avalos on this, and we're going to really get down to specific company analysis after this. This is like the sifting. This is the fine, the rough grade. Now we're going to look at the sectors, and we're going to get down to company specifics to look at. Yeah,
That's good. And distribution also, physical distribution.
If I may, in marketing terms, what we've tried to do is follow a very methodical approach vis-a-vis economic development. This report, commissioned by a well-respected public institution, helped us with market segmentation. Now we're going to move to target marketing. Once we get the target marketing, then the final dimension or stage is positioning the county. So we are trying to pursue, through Mike's leadership in economic development, a very science-based marketing approach to try to increase overall economic value in Tulare County. And you're getting a glimpse into the science behind what is the segmented market. Now Mike and his expertise will look to target and then position. And so next year, hopefully, you'll get a target marketing report, and the year thereafter, positioning, and lots of value and new jobs.
I think first we just have to let people know there are towns in the San Joaquin Valley,
Yeah.
I've heard that testimony that there aren't any here, so.
There's no towns.
No, they get on I-5, they drive down I-5 and they don't see any towns.
They fall asleep.
They don't understand that we have happy cows, so that's why our milk is so good.
That's right.
So.
I have a question before the distinguished Mr. Kimball addresses us. Velma, do you know if the PowerPoint was emailed to the commissioners that was just shown by Mike?
Well, I'm looking at it on.
It's in
Hard copy.
online, yes.
Mike, could you email the commissioners today, copy the PowerPoint, because it's really a good condensation of the report, which will help you, because we would like you to study this, because economic development is a key objective of RMA and the county. This is where we are headed, and so by establishing an office, now moving forward to the studies and analysis, very serious about this, and we'd like you to have all the information so that you can provide us feedback from time to time because of your knowledge and actual experience in the most important income-producing sector in this county, which is what? Agriculture.
You can go to Granicus at the site.
Yes.
Well, I just want to make sure they got it.
All right,
They
I'm
got it?
looking at it right now.
PowerPoint? Okay, good, thank you.
Okay, I'm looking at it.
Good stuff, Mike.
Part of my effort to go paperless, and it's working. You have to have a computer.
You'll never go paper. You'll never go.
Now the distinguished Mr. Kimball.
We're going to
You know,
take a step back
before
next
you
year.
speak, RMA has never been the same since you left.
I assume better. Assume better.
I was just gonna say, there's different ways to take that.
Like we said, it's a two-edged
I want you
sword.
back. I want you back.
Thank you, sir. And good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Thanks for having us here on the agenda. Out of respect for Mr. Spada and as a birthday present to Mr. Sims, who had his birthday earlier this week, I'm going to do the abbreviated, shorter version. It's
The
great
long
to be
version
back.
was good, though.
Great to be back. This really is, in a way, a leg of economic development, not only for the county, but for all the cities as well, is regional transportation. I've learned, now that I've been at TCAG a little while, TCAG, this county regional group, has an outstanding relationship with the state, Caltrans, the feds, FHWA, and other agencies that other COGs in our area won't pick on Kern or Kings or anybody else, but they simply do not have that. And a good part of this is, a good reason for that is Measure R being passed years ago. And we've turned about $20 million in revenue every year into about $500 million of transportation projects.
Oh.
And so, and if we didn't have Measure R, that would be $0 of transportation, which is what other counties are looking at that don't have that. So there is a great potential for this to play a role in what's going on with the county's economic development. So.
And that's because we were able to provide some matching funds or a proportion of it?
Leverage to the max. Every stone turned over for opportunities, grants, federal money, state money, anything. And right now, in a time where the state is really suffering for money for transportation, what little they have, they want to go to a county that can match a little bit, because that extends their spending power as well. And we're right here. We just got another $40 million for Highway 99 widening from Goshen to Tulare. Just because we're able to kick in a little bit of Measure R money. We got
Use any of that for some of our county roads that are deteriorating?
You're on your own on that one.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
I shouldn't say it. You are not on your own. There is a sizable portion of Measure R that goes straight to the county for use on the county's road repair. And so a lot of road repair you see going on in the county does come out of that Measure R. What I'm here to share today is the regional transportation plan briefly. And at the end, I just wanted to have you guys, I want to take a vote on which scenario we should pursue according to you. Briefly on Tulare County, I've left a 5-member board and a 7-member planning commission. Now I have a 16-member board and made up of the county supervisors, city representatives, 3 at-large members. Some of them are suing each other. It's really exciting. But our meetings are usually very civil and effective. I've learned inside TCAG there are 4 branches. Planning, which is what we're doing today, is a planning project in TCAG. There's also programming, which are the people that implement the projects, take care of the bureaucracy on a day-to-day basis and get things amended and carried forth. We have a very sophisticated and complex computer model for traffic, very expensive computer model that's mandated by the federal government and it's regulated by them. This model tracks land uses in the county, has all of the roads on it and railroads and everything. And we can put a project, say a new ag processing facility, into this model and see what that would do to traffic in the area and intersections. And we use that data on a lot of different things. I'll spare you the details on here. We deal with more in transportation. It's air quality, environmental protection, regional housing. Some people know us, one of our branches is finance. Some people know us only as a bank for money that they can tap into. We're an ATM machine for the cities and the county for transportation. We also have a state designation to be a clearinghouse, a regional data center. I'll skip through this. Everybody knows that Tulare County is going to grow a lot in the next years, more so than other parts of the state. And that's going to tax our ability to provide transportation. It's going to tax our air quality concerns. And so part of this regional transportation plan is to figure out how can we get people around, distribute the housing, arrange the transportation, take care of air quality at the same time.
State finance, they show we grow about 0.9% annually, but yet I know the county, I guess that would be TCAG, is projecting larger growth than that. And so where do you find that information that what we project the actual growth compared to the Department of Finance?
Part of it we can get out of our transportation model. If you're good with numbers, you can run your own analysis. A lot of the cities, when they're doing their general plans, I worked on the Porterville general plan as well as the counties. They do their own studies. And Porterville has the ability to compress large. We had the ability to look at large amounts of data and run statistical analysis on that to come up. We tracked our own trends. We adjusted for local realities that we knew about. The Department of Finance, they don't adjust for local realities. And they just come up with their own numbers, and it's based on statistics.
When you're trying to attract large companies, they tend to go to places like that, and there are reasons to attract people by saying, we're very close to going to more than 500,000 people, where if like Fresno is over 900,000 people. So I guess what I'm trying to get at is what could you give us, people in the business who are attracting companies here? Can you give us information on county growth?
Yes.
Ben, could you
give us a call?
You go back that one slide, just one. There, talked about growth on there. You've got air quality continue to be a problem. Need to put water quality and availability on that thing too.
That is true. Water quality, there was a big discussion this past year over whether or not TCAG should take on the water issues in the county and help mediate those debates and facilitate how we handle it. The reality is, number one, no one wanted us to. The county didn't want us to. The cities didn't want. Number two, we couldn't do it if we tried because of the legal framework that the water districts and the water conveyors have to follow.
Well,
but
TCAG seems it would be the perfect vehicle because if we don't get a hold of it, state's going to come down there and they're going to make some mandates on us that we might not like. I promise you it's coming.
I believe you. We do have, and I'll show you in just a moment, built into the RTP scenarios, we do approach it from one angle, which is how we do density in the region and how that affects water use. And the scenarios reflect that a little bit. We measured that through information in our model. So,
okay, thanks.
Basically, regional transportation plan is our general plan. It's a 20-year plan, but we have to update it every 4 years. So just imagine how fun that would be if you guys were required to update your general plan every 4 years. What workload that would be. That's where we are. It basically says what projects are we going to do, when are we going to do project, and how are we going to pay for it. And every project in the plan is paid for or has a plan to pay for it. There's no pie-in-the-sky projects in this plan. Not easy to do with the big board. Visalia wants the projects all to be around them right away. Tulare, same thing. County has their own priorities. But through this process, we come up with something that everybody can agree with. Sometimes one city deferred a year, but they get the project the next year kind of thing. And those things are worked out where the need is the greatest and where politically we can make everybody happy. This year, this go around with the regional transportation plan, the state gave us some additional curveballs. Number one, as a response to SB 375, they require regional transportation plans to have a sustainable community strategy, which is a plan to reduce greenhouse gases by 5% by the year 2020 and 10% by the year 2035. It has to be worked into the plan so that however you arrange your transportation and your densities and things, it needs to meet those greenhouse gas goals. I'll show you at the end all scenarios that we have to choose from. They all meet those goals. It's not going to be a problem. If we did business as usual and didn't increase density or do anything like that, you'll see that we're still going to meet our greenhouse gas goals. There's other reasons for doing things, but we'll be good on this one. Also, regional housing needs, the RHNA process, the infamous work with ACD on housing elements. That needs to now be incorporated into the regional transportation plan for the first time. So those numbers they give us can't be bartered with like poker chips among agencies and things. They need to be in the model and a part of sustainable growth strategies. And so they're really linking all this together.
And question on that greenhouse gas again.
Yeah.
They want us to, reduce it by 10%, 2035? You're going to give us credit for our crops pulling all this greenhouse gas out of the atmosphere as we grow?
If it's in the model, yes.
What's that mean?
Meaning that the model is what the model results are what they base whether or not we achieve that goal on. So if our model, we run our models, which by the way, computers do how many calculations per second, or it takes 8 hours for this model to run one model update. That's how complex it is. We run it overnight. As soon as they leave for work, we turn that thing on. If that comes out with all that input, at the end they total out the greenhouse gas emissions based on the vehicles, mostly based on vehicles, but also stationary. I don't think you're going to see ag crops in there.
We don't get any credits for that then.
But I'm also going to say we don't need the credits. We're looking very good with greenhouse gas, just with what we're doing right now.
Are you kidding? I heard the cows are generating more than all the cars put together.
We're doing. What we don't get credit for yet is how well this county, which includes the cities, is doing with transit. We have a lot of resources committed to transit. We have a lot of resources committed to bicycle and pedestrian paths, and especially in Visalia. We have done a lot of greenhouse reducing things already in the county, not to mention the crops and everything else. That shows up in the model. And and we shine because we don't really need to be told by the state to reduce greenhouse gases. Just by what we're doing anyway, we're reducing them. And not every county can say the same thing. So that's a feather in our cap here. To show you the three scenarios really quick. Trend scenario, this is business as usual. If we build things out just like we're doing, kind of the densities you see in housing right now, and continue what our general plans predict, so what the Visalia general plan has in store right now, that's the trend scenario. No project is, I'm just going to skip that, it's not relevant, right? Blueprint is if we go to the Tulare County blueprint, which proposes a 25% increase in residential density, make everything more compact. That would mean people drive shorter distances to get places because everything's closer together over time, reduces vehicle emissions and things like that. That's what we call the blueprint scenario, that density, 25%. Then there is a blueprint plus scenario, which is the valley-wide blueprint, which is a 30%, it's a 5% higher density. Those are the three scenarios we came up with for the sustainable community strategy, and we've plugged in all three of these scenarios into our models, and we've looked at the results. I'll share a few of them now. One is density maps. If you look at this area, this is the trend, business as usual. Look at this part of Porterville over here on the west side that's currently ag land. By the year 2035, according to our models and predictions, which are not perfect, kind of the best we have now for projecting these things, you see a lot of development. There we go. On the west side of Porterville. In the blueprint scenario, that development disappears. Everything's been kept at a higher density within the city. And there's examples of that all over the county. Just to show you the comparison. Population per acre, you have the 3 trend, blueprint, and blueprint plus along the bottom. In the trend scenario, there's a lot less population per acre. It's more spread out. You can see kind of how they compare. When you go to blueprint, you get more people per acre. On the trend scenario on the left, we have a lot of farmland consumed compared to the other 2 scenarios. Farmland is conserved in the blueprint scenarios. This is taking that 250,000 people and putting them into tighter quarters. Vehicle miles traveled is greatly reduced in each scenario as you increase density. Air quality, this is not greenhouse gases. This is the PM10, the nitrous oxide reactive organic gases. You see the 3 scenarios lined up. The trend is orange, the blueprint is blue. There are very subtle differences that it's not going to make a huge difference in the toxic air pollution that we have, which one we pick. And the model surprised us, and I'll explain that in just a moment. Last couple of slides. This is the comparison of the scenarios regarding greenhouse gases. The goal is this red line you see here, 5% by the year 2020. In the trend scenario, we almost triple that, just doing what we do now. We almost triple what the state is requiring for us to reducing greenhouse gases. The blueprint, we actually see less, as we increase density, we actually see less greenhouse gas reduced. Surprised everybody. But one of the reasons for that is as you bring people closer together, it creates more congestion. More congestion means you're idling your car at intersections more or on the road more. And that creates more greenhouse gases than if you're driving faster. And so just increasing density alone does not necessarily reduce greenhouse gases, which flies in the face of every other cost that we saw, but that's how our model showed up. So in our rural area. In LA, it's a little bit different in the larger cities, but in a rural area, this is actually kind of common now. So, this is the year 2035, 15 years later. It shows that we still meet the goal of 10% exceeded on all of the scenarios. There are, I think I glazed over one of the charts, but there are impacts to water. If you have higher density houses, you have less lawn space per person, and you consume less water in the higher density scenarios. Loss of important farmland is reduced. So there may be other reasons for picking a higher scenario. And so what I'd like to do here is just poll you guys, and by show of hands, I don't have the voting devices that Mr. Elliott saw in Three Rivers, unfortunately, today. They were loaned out to another COG, unbeknown to me. But just by a raise of hand, I could do a poll now, or I can answer questions first and discuss it a little bit.
Yeah, let's
whatever you'd
discuss
like
it just
to
a
do.
little bit, because you said it yourself, you're asking us to make some judgment on just one aspect of the whole big picture, and that being greenhouse gases. And there's other circumstances that might cause us to lean in another direction, because all 3 of them looks like they meet the goals that we've got set. So there might be some things that these others might benefits that maybe outweigh the fact that that's not as good in greenhouse gas, but it does benefit us in other areas.
Yes, and I will say that your vote today, we held workshops throughout the county over the fall, and we gathered, we had a presentation just like this at each one. We hit a number of unincorporated communities in the county, as well as some cities. Our plan is to gather this information and present it to the TCAG board either in January or February, and they are going to pick one of these scenarios and the preferred scenario that comes out of that meeting will be what is used in the environmental document as the preferred scenario and end up as the RTP recommendation. So that's how we plan to use what we discussed today and the input we get from you.
Over the difference between the blueprint and the blueprint plus a little more.
Sure. Let me get this one right here. So in the blueprint scenario, you see an increased density of 25% over the status quo. This is the county. There were actually two blueprints, if you recall. There was one that the county did, and then there was a valley-wide blueprint. And in the county blueprint, this is what was in it. There was actually a light rail between cities by a certain year, by the year 2060. Now that's a whole separate discussion we could have. I would just calm nerves by suggesting that an actual light rail system is not highly likely by then. However, some work towards one. For example, the purchase of right-of-way that could be used for rapid bus transit in a higher population area in that time would certainly be feasible and may be preferable. That right-of-way could later then be turned to light rail if we ever wanted to. But
And I think that proposal, that was proposed in the blueprint discussions. That was discussed to do that, to designate that property now as e-bus or whatever, but it would then eventually go into light rail.
Correct.
That was the thought. Okay.
it also included extending Highway 65 north to Fresno County. You see, as a result of the higher density, it was expanded transit, other things like that that went towards growth. It did turn development towards the incorporated cities. That was a big part of the county blueprint at the time, consistent with county general plan.
So then, okay, and then on the plus, the blueprint.
Same scenario, 30% density.
So that's basically the difference.
It's not, when you look at the maps, here's the blueprint density map, the blueprint plus, you don't see much change when I go back and forth between them. It's very subtle. On this scale, you don't see a lot of change, but there are some differences that play out into the results. Thoughts or questions? Should we do by a show of hand, or would you guys like to take a vote like you normally do?
No, it's not going to be.
Thank you, Mr.
Okay.
It's not on the. Now, if the commission wants to give their opinions,
input,
that's fine, but there's no formal.
Yeah, it wasn't advertised for action, so that's
right.
Good point. All right.
So you can say.
Yeah, push one.
Be happy to entertain any input you have.
I'll push the shoot button.
Trying to keep you guys honest.
I'll give
legal.
I'll give you
all
legal.
honest. Legal.
I'll give you an opinion. We've got one. Without further input from other issues other than greenhouse gas, go with stick with the status quo, because we know that. We know what we're doing on that, what we've been doing. The others, the other two blueprints are not tried and true. They're just kind of computer models. So I'm not to say that I won't change, and there are some things in the status quo we cannot continue to do. But that's just my opinion today.
No, I had the benefit of listening to Ben's presentation and the pleasure of listening to his presentation in Orosi, and and we did make that vote, and I don't think my vote has changed. I think I voted for the traditional process, and mainly I like to see our community, fill in, but that's where I work at, so I like to see that fill in, but I think it seems like most of the community likes being farmers or whatever, they like that elbow room. So that's why they maintain that traditional, or most of them voted for that traditional pattern where let's just keep the status quo as it is for now.
I also had the pleasure of seeing it up in Three Rivers. And Three Rivers, you get a little different perspective because we've got the cowboys and the ranchers, and we also have the most progressive collection of PhDs probably in this country that happen to do research for the national park. And they come together and provide input on this. And I don't remember our stats exactly. I wrote an article about it. It was very interesting. And the thing is that, that the status quo doesn't do is it does not plan for transportation. And this is exactly what we were talking about in the other, presentation. We want economic growth, but we want the status quo. The economic growth could come, and it could come at such and such a rate, but all these things work together, and Ben mentioned this, and we need to plan for the transportation needs of all the people. And sitting on the status quo is not going to do that. So, the way transportation works, if you look at it in other parts of the country, number one, mass transit, whether it's the bullet train or whatever, it doesn't make a profit. And it's not, it cannot work without some kind of public subsidy. This is where we have a hard time coming to terms with this. But the plan down the road, you got to get that a little bit into your mentality and what it is in transportation. And I can't guarantee this, but I can tell you what I know in other parts. If you build it, well, I won't say they will come, but it will come. And so we have to have some of that and kind of mix it together. And I think a more calculated approach for Tulare County is to lean more toward the blueprint and maybe even a little plus in some of our elements. And I think that that's really going to capture what we need for the future. And that's my opinion.
Charlie?
You look at all the systems and, best case scenario, it always comes down to finances. I'd like to see a firefighter in every closet in America. We can't afford it. The blueprint, I think, would be the best working scenario. In California, we're in love with our cars out here on the West Coast. That's going to be a tough habit to break. The Blueprint Plus, you look at the urbanized area, and I know they do it in the Far East, and they have the mass transportation, but just the population densities with the Plus are just concerning. I think, yeah, it's great living out in the county, but living in the city, from what we have, from everybody I know not carpooling and driving by themselves, and
Hey.
Oh, go ahead. No, go ahead. I like to be last.
I'm last.
We're not necessarily last here. This is open discussion. So.
I think I'm with that, remaining with the status quo for now. I don't have any strong convictions for the other two options.
Nancy?
I had the advantage of serving on the Blueprint Valley team, so a little bit more advantage there, but a little more information is all. But I would probably definitely stay with the Blueprint scenario. And the biggest reason is what John said. I think almost all of us, for some reason, we're on the road a lot, and I'm on the 99 a lot, and I see what effects we have going, and we have to plan some transportation strategies. We've got to. What you were saying, I would say half my trip to Tipton, I am going 45 miles an hour because traffic is all backed up. You can't just make a straight shot anymore and go. And I know that's pollution. It makes sense. So we've got to do something. We've got to put a program in effect that can let us plan for this transportation. And if that's the only way to do it, we're going to have to do that. And status quo, I guess that's not built in, we can't do that with that.
We can't, on status quo, we can't make any decisions on transportation?
Well, we pretty much keep it the way it is.
Yeah, we're just gonna keep it like it is, letting everybody come.
With current plans that are in place.
See, in the density thing, we really missed the point on what density is. Density is because we can't have economic equality in all people. So some people make less money, they gotta live in higher density. Now, if you wanna raise the wage so that everyone can buy a single home and live out in the country, which that's not gonna happen, then you have to, then you could do without some of that density. But the way the trend is going, our kids, their kids, they're not going to be able to buy a 2,500 square foot out in Three Rivers and have 26 acres of property. That's not going to happen. And that's not going to be the reality for the majority of people that move here either. So as much as the idea doesn't sound good to us, we got to group these people in compact housing with transportation. And they'll have one car instead of like us, we got three. And that's basically, we better start planning for that. Well, you got four. Okay, I got three. I got three because my kids gave me back one. I didn't want it. But the thing is we cannot continue to sustain that kind of.
Yeah, but the population is aging in general, John, and it's going to force people back into these clusters anyway, whether you like it or not. There's going to be more assisted living and more independent living facilities.
Well,
I look at it over the next 2
And
decades.
more need for transit.
Yeah.
Because these
Well,
older
then-
people can't drive.
Why didn't we let the railroad pull all the tracks out between Visalia and Bakersfield?
Money. We
Well,
thought it was a
so then
waste
how are
of
you gonna
money.
implement your blueprint?
Well, anyway, these are the issues we're going to be confronting, but I can tell you we cannot sustain the kind of lifestyle we've been sustaining.
I jokingly told Alan Nishida, why don't you run a light rail system from Porterville to Visalia and let people pay 50 cents to ride it so that they don't have to be in a car, and those that can't afford because they work out in the fields can't afford to come into a major metropolitan area and do their shopping and go home. Why did we miss that opportunity? And you just said money.
The bottom line.
Well, I'm going to give you the best
have
is
it
the
both
last
ways.
person, Wayne. The
You can't
best.
have it both ways.
We just passed a general plan that sets how Tulare County is going to grow. And a lot of what we were just talking about is in that plan about where growth will happen, how transportation will happen. If we just put that away in someplace to collect dust, that is our plan. I think we came up with a pretty good plan. Some people may or may not disagree. And so I don't know, that is a blueprint plan. And we should stick to that blueprint
the
plan.
blueprint.
And we can change where necessary on that general plan. And so the general plan, that's our blueprint. We did it. We just finished it.
And my report shortly will show you how we're going to follow your sage-like words.
Implement it.
So thank you, Ben.
Yeah, thank you for your time today.
We heard
ladies
enough
and
from you.
gentlemen.
Go back to wherever you live. I guess I didn't like you
the
that
bus.
much.
You're really cool, Ben. Thanks.
Good job, Ben. Thanks, Ben.
Okay, we'll go to the director's report. Then I'm going to pass the gavel.
First, let me say thank you, and it was terrific that we ended a very good year with an excellent report by one of our local luminaries in the planning profession, Mr. Ben Kimball. So we always appreciate your thoughtful and helpful input, Ben. To immediately tear off the comment that our distinguished chairman had made with regard to the general plan, and which is a frequent criticism, not only of Tulare County, but all governmental organizations. What is the purpose of doing studies? You spend all this time, spend all this money, do the studies, and put it on the shelf for which you collect dust? Well, the example of the report provided by Mr. Washam is the opposite of that. The clear direction from the board and the CAO is that if money is provided to do studies, they have to be with a specific clear and definable objective in mind. And as I mentioned at the end of the presentation by Mike, there is a very clear and defined objective to have a science-based marketing approach, and it's a staged approach. Now, with regard to the general plan, yesterday at the Board of Supervisors was GPI Day. GPI means General Plan Initiation. And even though the budget authorized us to move forward with 3 community plans, formally the board authorized the initiation of 3 community plans: Traver, Goshen, and Pixley. What's the common denominator? Highway 99. Because there were a number of reasons that were articulated why those community plans should go forward. There were land use, environmental, economic development, disadvantaged communities. And what's the common denominator there? Focus on transportation. I also indicated to the board that the Three Rivers Community Plan, General Plan Initiation, would go forward in January. And then in February, the Early Mart Community Plan, General Plan Initiation, go forward. That's action. We're going to get at least 3 to you next year, and the following year 2 more. So we're moving in order to do what? Implement the general plan. And those community plans will all reflect both the text and the policies of the general plan, going from land use to transportation to agriculture to economic development, right on down the line. So we're moving, and I think our track record is that we move fast in order to get this work done. In addition, there was another general plan initiation along Highway 99, and the board unanimously authorized the general plan initiation for the Sequoia Crossing Commerce and Business Center, which is on Highway 99 in Caldwell, which is a 126-acre proposal for highway commercial and regional commercial. So we are very serious about Highway 99, implementing the general plan, and economic development, all with the tremendous assistance of County Council, environmental planning and project processing to move these things along in a year or less. So there's a lot of action going on, and now with all the fuss and feathers with regard to the general plan update, as we say in the office, we have moved from GPU to GPI, which is General Plan Implementation. And if you also notice, as I'm sure you astutely read, Mr. Chairman, in every single staff report, there is a summary section and then a more detailed section of the application of all the relevant general plan policies to that development project. The staff has been instructed a year ago that now we all must become experts in this new general plan and then apply them to changes of zone, to use permits, to parcel maps, and any other discretionary permit that either goes before your commission or is director approved. So we're very serious about this. So next year, I definitely don't want to hear the general plan update is collecting dust, because we'll probably have it all implemented in 1 year, including Three Rivers.
Yeah. Okay, that sounds
But if
good.
you'll notice, I pointed out earlier in the year those comments back to the general plan. I thought it was good, so.
We're on
we
the
take
right
it seriously. A lot of time and effort and money has been expended in that regard, and now we're going to carry it out. It's not only a state mandate, but I think logic and ethics require us to carry this out, and we're going to be doing that.
But that is a blueprint, right?
You know, once again, Mr. Chairman, you're very astute, because the courts many years ago had defined the general plan as a blueprint for land use and development. So you're right on.
After 14 years, I think I finally got it right. And is there any additions? If not, I'm going to pass the gavel down to Ed.
Can we have that agenda thing to add for aesthetics on sale? I know you're implementing the general plan, but can we have that looked into?
This is what I'd like to suggest, if I may. We will sit down with the industry, and I think, let's do first things first. Let's identify all the different types of towers.
Right.
Both graphically and verbally. And then I'd like to hear from them, what are the constraints to going from design 1 to design 2? And maybe we'll have a workshop We won't present anything in a very definitive way. Let's sit down with them. I'll assign it to quite capable Charlotte. Sit down with the industry. We'll organize a presentation, slides, and then we'll get your input. But you can see this is a very fast-moving industry.
Right. Now's the time.
And I think it's appropriate that we consider. I think we've got a handle on it, but we're doing it on a case-by-case basis. You're saying you'd like it in a more comprehensive way, and that's a very good point.
Okay, appreciate it.
If not, at the end of this meeting, the famous actor said, that's all, folks.
Good job, Mr. Chair, you did a very